The Great Wall of China, a defense built on 100,000 corpses. They say if you walk it carefully, you can hear them. Whispers in the wind, moans beneath the stones. The voices of hundreds of thousands who died building humanity's longest graveyard. A mother searches for her husband, weeping so hard the wall itself crumbles. A soldier frozen mid-step, entombed in the ramparts. Skeletons crushed between bricks, their bones now part of the mortar. This isn't legend, this is history. The Great Wall of China wasn't just built on mountains, it was built on corpses. The Ming Dynasty's desperation. AD 1368. The Ming Dynasty expelled the Mongol Yuan dynasty and reclaimed China. But the Mongols didn't disappear. They retreated to the steppes and continued raiding. The northern frontier was an open wound. By the late 15th century, Ming China faced catastrophic defeats. In 1449, Mongols captured Emperor Yingzong. The humiliation was unbearable. The solution? Rebuild the Great Wall, not with earth, but with brick and stone. Make it impregnable. The Ming Wall project began around 1470 and continued for 200 years. This wasn't repair, it was total reconstruction. The result is the Great Wall tourists see today. Brick-faced ramparts, watchtowers, magnificent, deadly, built on an ocean of suffering. The Ming Dynasty mobilized millions over 2 centuries. Soldiers, convict laborers, conscripted peasants. Every male subject owed the emperor work time. For many, that meant death. The quarries and kilns. The Ming Wall required materials on an incomprehensible scale. 3.8 billion bricks, 40 million cubic meters of stone, millions of tons of lime for mortar. Stone quarrying was brutal. Workers used fire quenching to crack rock, but quarrying accidents were constant. Rock faces collapsed, burying workers. Flying stone chips blinded men. Dust filled lungs, causing silicosis. Workers coughed blood, their lungs slowly turning to stone. Brick production was equally deadly. Clay was fired in kilns at extreme temperatures. Workers fed wood constantly, standing in suffocating heat. Kiln collapses killed instantly. Explosions from moisture in clay sent shrapnel through crowds. Each brick was stamped with the supervisor's name. This wasn't pride, it was quality control through terror. If bricks crumbled, supervisors were executed. This ensured quality, but it also meant supervisors drove workers mercilessly. Beatings were routine. Deaths were acceptable losses. The impossible transport, moving billions of bricks and millions of tons of stone to remote mountain locations was logistically nightmarish. The Ming Wall runs through China's most hostile terrain, the Gobi Desert, where summer temperatures reach 50 degrees Celsius. Mountain passes where winter drops to 40 degrees Celsius. Cliffs where one misstep means death. Inaccessible areas, ox carts carried materials, but much of the wall was unreachable by cart. Materials moved on human backs. Workers carried loads of 30-50 kilograms up mountain paths. Some paths were so steep that ropes and ladders were necessary. Men climbed with bricks strapped to their backs, hands gripping ropes, feet finding purchase on ice. One slip meant a fall of hundreds of meters. Bodies were left where they fell. Retrieving them was too dangerous. Certain sections became known as death zones. At Jiangnu, locals still find bones in crevices below the wall. In winter, transport was nearly impossible, but work continued. The Ming Dynasty operated on quotas. Men worked through blizzards, hands freezing to stones, their feet turning black with frostbite. Historical records mention ice roads, Water poured on slopes, creating frozen ramps. Workers slipped constantly. Many froze overnight. Bodies left until spring. Building without safety. The wall itself was engineering marvel and worker massacre. The Ming design was sophisticated, but building required workers to operate at extreme heights without safety equipment. Men worked on bamboo scaffolding. A broken pole meant a fall. Wind in mountain passes could blow a man off. Most died on impact. Some survived with shattered limbs and were left to die. Medical care was non-existent. Lifting materials required pulleys and ropes. These failed regularly. A snapped rope sent bricks raining down. The weight could decapitate or crush flat. Warning shouts were useless in the wind. Mortar work burned differently. Lime mortar burns skin. Workers mixed it with bare hands. Chemical burns were universal. Splashed in eyes, lime caused blindness. But work continued. Blinded workers could still carry loads. The wall was built in sections, with crews competing. Officials created competition to increase speed, but it also increased carelessness. Crews rushed, ignored safety, took risks. Death rates in competitive sections were significantly higher. The workers, everyone the state could force. Military conscripts. Soldiers were construction workers first, fighters second. Entire units spent decades building. They lived in primitive barracks, ate inadequate rations, died far from home. Families received no compensation. Names were forgotten. Convict labor. Criminals sentenced to wall service. Essentially a death sentence. Working conditions were worse than for soldiers. Less food, more beatings. Most dangerous assignments. A 5-year sentence often meant death within 2. Corvée labor. Every male peasant owed the state labor. Local officials drafted men in rotation. Theoretically temporary, but many never returned. Peasants abandoned farms, leaving families without support. Villages emptied. Harvests rotted. Starvation followed. Slaves and prisoners. Captured enemies. Enslaved minorities. Purchased slaves worked in worst conditions. No records tracked their deaths. They were expendable. Women weren't absent. They cooked, washed, sometimes carried materials. Some followed husbands to war sites, became widows, remained trapped, forced to work or starve. The death toll, counting the uncountable. How many died? We don't know. And the uncertainty is itself tragedy. Traditional accounts say 1 body per meter. The Ming Wall, at 8,850 kilometers, cost 8.85 million lives. Probably exaggerated, but the real number is still horrific. Modern historians estimate between 400,000 and 1 million deaths during Ming construction. This includes accidents, disease, exposure, exhaustion, malnutrition, and violence. But these numbers only count documented workers. Uncounted deaths include families who starved when breadwinners never returned, children who died because fathers were conscripted, women who died in childbirth without male support. The war killed people who never saw it. The bodies in the walls. The most haunting aspect, bodies are built into the wall. This isn't legend. Archaeological excavations confirm it. When workers died on site, disposal was problematic. Burying properly required time and labor. Transporting bodies down mountains was impractical. The solution was brutal. Incorporate them into the wall. Bodies were placed in the rubble core during construction. Rammed earth and stones covered them. Bricks sealed them in. They became part of the structure. Skeletons have been found during modern restoration. Workers' bones mixed with stone and brick. Some bodies were placed deliberately. Ancient Chinese believed human sacrifice strengthened structures, while Ming Dynasty officially opposed this. Local superstitions persisted. Foremen sometimes ordered live burials. Workers sealed into foundations to appease spirits. More commonly, bodies were included from expediency. A worker died at night. By morning, construction continued over the corpse. No ceremony, no marker, just brick and mortar. The Great Wall became humanity's longest tomb. The legend of Meng Jiangnu. Chinese folklore preserves one name, Meng Jiangnu. According to legend, her husband was conscripted shortly after their wedding. Months passed with no word. She traveled to the wall site searching. She learned he had died and been buried in the wall. Her grief was so profound that she wept at the wall's base. Her tears were so bitter that a section collapsed, revealing her husband's bones. She took them home, then threw herself into the sea. The legend is probably fiction, but it resonates because it's emotionally true. Countless women made similar journeys. Most found nothing. Bodies unmarked, locations forgotten. The legend gives voice to thousands of forgotten women who searched for lost husbands. Temples to Meng Jiangnu exist along the wall. Visitors leave offerings, incense, fruit, paper money for the dead. The legend has become more real than history because it acknowledges what official records don't: the human cost. Every few hundred meters, watchtowers punctuate the wall. These served as barracks, signal stations, defensive positions. They're also monuments to isolation and despair. Soldiers stationed at watchtowers lived in extreme conditions. In mountain passes, winter lasted 7 months. Temperatures dropped below 30 degrees Celsius. Supply caravans couldn't reach remote towers. Garrisons were cut off, surviving on stored grain and melted snow. Many starved. When spring came and caravans reached isolated towers, they often found only corpses. Entire garrisons dead. Bodies were buried nearby. Mass graves surround many watchtowers. Beacon tower duty was punishment detail. Soldiers lived in tiny stone rooms, watched empty horizons, slowly went mad from isolation. Suicide was common. Some threw themselves from tower tops. Others walked into wilderness and disappeared. Archaeological excavations reveal traces of despair. Carved graffiti. When will I see home? 3 years and still here. If I die, tell my mother. These aren't curiosities. They're vital messages from men who knew they'd never leave. The wall failed its primary purpose. It didn't stop invasions. Mongols found gaps, bribed guards, or went around endpoints. The wall was too long to defend uniformly. Enemies concentrated forces at weak points and broke through. The wall slowed invasions but didn't prevent them. In 1644, ultimate failure, Manchu forces conquered China, establishing the Ming Dynasty. They didn't breach the wall through military might. A Ming general opened the gates and let them in. The wall fell to internal betrayal. So millions labored, hundreds of thousands died. And for what? A wall that didn't work. A defensive line that failed. A monument to futility built with human bones. Today, 10 million tourists visit annually. Most see heavily restored sections with amenities. They take photos, buy souvenirs, leave. Few contemplate the human cost. Tour guides focus on engineering marvels. They mention many workers died, but give no numbers, no names, no stories. The wall is presented as triumph, not tragedy. Modern archaeology has begun excavating sites. One excavation near Shanhai Guan found a mass grave containing 300 skeletons. Bone analysis revealed ages 20-40, chronic malnutrition, widespread disease, repeated trauma. Bodies were dumped in a pit and covered with lime. No grave goods, no markers, just mass disposal. The Great Wall is paradox, both magnificent achievement and monumental crime, brilliant engineering and mass murder, source of national pride and shame, testament to human ambition and human cruelty. The Great Wall has outlasted the empire that built it. The Ming Dynasty fell in 1644. The wall remains. It has survived 600 years of weather, war, and neglect. The workers achieved immortality they never sought. Their bodies became stone. Their sweat became mortar. They are literally part of the structure. The wall is not just built by them. It is them. Stand on the Great Wall, and you're standing on history, on sacrifice, on bone and blood turned to brick. The wall beneath your feet is not just architecture. It's a monument to nameless millions who built empires with their lives. The wind whispers across the ramparts. Maybe it's just wind. Maybe it's something more. The voices of those who died here, still speaking, still waiting to be heard. The Great Wall of China, humanity's longest cemetery, disguised as humanity's greatest architectural triumph.